In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to do a redundant multi-track recording of an Avid S3L using two computers. If you're in a critical live scenario where you don't want to risk losing the recording, this setup might be for you. For background, I'm in the audio team at ICF, International Christian Fellowship, where we use various equipment from Avid. I'm typically running in-ear monitoring for those on stage, but I also do front of house for special events and sometimes do the remixing of the full signal chain for live streaming. This video will reveal some deeper aspects of AVB configuration on macOS. I will only cover the details necessary to do a redundant recording of the S3L, but the information can be used to do additional things, such as sending and receiving multi-track audio between multiple computers running macOS. The information can also be useful if you're using other AVB-enabled products, such as those from HOWTO, PreSonus, or Yamaha. You are welcome to look at my slowly expanding wiki, where I'm documenting information about AVB and the Avid S3L as I figure things out. I'll put a link in the description. Please understand that what I am going to show you is not endorsed or supported by Avid, but seeing as they stopped providing updates for the S3L, I'm not holding my breath waiting on them to provide a supported solution. If you'd like to replicate what I'm going to do today, you will need to purchase one piece of equipment if you don't already have it. Specifically, you will need an AVB switch. I recommend the PreSonus SW5E, I'll put a link in the description, or the Netgear GS724T V4 with AVB license. The HOWTO AVB switch will not work due to the size of the streams used by Avid, as they're not compatible with HOWTO products. To get started, I want to cover the test environment I'll be using so you can see how it compares to the environment you may be using. I'll be using pre-recorded material, which is sent to the S3L system in the same manner as a live system using stage 16 stage boxes to ensure that this is reproducible by you. I'll record the audio on one computer in the normal Avid supported way, and then demonstrate recording in parallel to a second computer. For signal generation, I'll be sending 32 tracks of audio using a Mac Mini, late 2012, running macOS Yosemite with Logic Pro X 10.4.4. The Mac Mini is connected to a HOWTO 24AO via USB, which itself is connected to a HOWTO Stage B16 via AVB. I need both HOWTOs to give me 32 tracks of line output, enough to fully drive the two Avid Stage 16 stage boxes. The Stage 16 stage boxes are connected in a redundant loop to the A and B ports of the E3 engine in a normal manner. I also have the E3 engine configured to output audio to my studio speakers via analog outputs 1 and 2. The signals from the HOWTO are wired into the inputs of the Stage 16 stage boxes. For signal recording, I'm using a Mac Pro, late 2013, and a MacBook Pro, 13-inch 2020, both running macOS Big Sur and Pro Tools 2020.12.0. These are both connected via the Ethernet to the PreSonus SW5E switch, which itself is connected to the B port of the S3 console. The S3 is connected to the C port of the E3 engine, as recommended by the S3L manual. Any good audio engineer does a sound check before starting the show, so I'll go ahead and do that now by playing audio on the Mac Mini, verify that I'm receiving audio on the S3L. As you can see, I'm receiving all 32 channels on the S3L. Technically 30, as I have 2 tracks that have no sound. When I stop and start the sound, we can see visually as well as hear audibly that the sound is making it through. I do have the click track muted, which I can unmute. I do have some compression and reverb on the vocals in the S3L, as I might do in a live performance, but I won't be recording that. Your love goes on, your love goes on forever. Alright, I'm done with the sound check. To demonstrate that this works with an existing recording environment, I'll set up a recording environment in the Avid supported manner. As mentioned earlier, I've added the PreSonus AVB switch to the wiring configuration, as it will be required later, but otherwise there are no changes. First, I'll configure the computer to recognize the E3 engine as an audio device. I'll do this by opening the Audio MIDI setup. You'll see the device is not listed. From there, I'll open the network browser. If your computer is correctly connected to the AVB network, the E3 engine will be visible. I'll enable the E3 engine by checking the appropriate checkbox. As soon as you've done it, it should show up in the list of audio devices. I'll now quit the audio MIDI setup as we're done with this. I'll next set up a Pro Tools session to record audio from the E3 engine. I'll start by opening Pro Tools. I'll click Cancel on the dashboard window as I first want to select the E3 engine as my playback engine. I'll now create a new session. Note that the sample rate is fixed at 48 kHz with an external clock based on our choice of playback engine, which is the E3 engine. Next, I'll add 32 mono tracks. If you do this regularly, you can set up a template with all the correct channel names. I can go ahead and record enable all the tracks by alt-clicking the record button on the first track. I can now test the recording by sending some signal from the Mac Mini. As you can see in here, we are sending signals from Logic through the Motus into the S3L. From there, we are receiving those signals via AVB in the Mac Pro. So far, so good. We'll now set up the MacBook Pro as a redundant recording destination. Normally, one would configure macOS using Audio MIDI Setup tool. This works great when recording to a single computer, but it does not work for multiple computers. If I were to click the checkbox for the E3 engine on the second computer, a spinner would appear, but it won't configure the device. This is where we have to go deeper into the AVB stack of macOS. Instead of using the Audio MIDI Setup tool, we are going to use the AVB Util controller. To start the controller, open Terminal. I'm doing it here using Command Space to open the Spotlight search, and then typing Terminal. On the command line, type avbutil space -- controller space launch. This brings up the AVD ECC entity controller, which shows all of the AVB devices visible to the machine. If you'd like to know more about this tool, you can read about it on my wiki. The link is in the description. With the AVD ECC entity controller, we can see that the E3 engine is visible. I have some other AVB devices connected to my PreSonus which also appear. We'll ignore them for this video. Clicking on the E3 engine, it gives us some information about the AVB configuration of the device. One thing I want to point out is the stream format of the output streams, as we'll need this information later. The stream format used by the E3 engine is the IEC 61883-6, AM 8-24, 48 kHz, 32 data blocks, non-blocking, 32 MB. In simple terms, this format dictates that 32-bit generic audio network data will be used, and that the data will be transmitted at 48 kHz in the AM 8-24 format. Each stream holds 32 channels that won't block one another during transmission, and that the stream is constructed so that audio conforms to the multi-bit linear audio format, which enables the receiver to easily decode the digital audio directly to analog. I'll start the configuration process by enabling an AVB virtual audio device on my Ethernet device. I'll do this by opening the Simple Virtual Audio Entity configuration. I'll check the box next to my device to enable it. As you may have noticed, my laptop appeared on the AVDECC Entity Controller as a new device. What's more, if I open the Entity Controller on the Mac Pro, which is also connected to my AVB network, the laptop also appears as a device there as well. Back in the Entity Controller, I'll select my laptop, which was the device that recently appeared. The first setting to check is the current configuration. It needs to be set to 64 in, 64 out, 30 channel streams to match the abilities of the S3L. Scrolling down, the next setting is the clock domain. The clock source needs to be set to audio input stream 1, which will use the AVB stream for clocking information. We cannot use the Mac system clock as it will drift compared to the AVB stream and result in timing issues that sound like clicking. Next, set the stream format for audio input stream 1 and 2. This is where we must match the IEC value we saw earlier in the E3 engine. Make sure to do this for both streams. We are now ready to route the audio from the E3 engine into the MacBook Pro laptop. To do so, we'll open the AVD-ECC connection matrix. The connection matrix shows all of the available AVB input and output streams, as well as an indication of which streams can be connected together. You'll see green boxes at the connection points between the E3 engine output streams, and the KWard-MacBook Pro 20 input streams. The green box indicates that the format matches between the streams and that they can be connected. I want to quickly show what happens if the format is incorrect. I'll set the format of the input stream number 1 on the laptop back to AAF, and you'll immediately see that the box changes to orange, which indicates that the formats are incompatible. Restoring the correct format brings back the green box. I'll now check the boxes to route the audio. I'll connect the output stream 1 to input stream 1 and output stream 2 to input stream 2. As far as signal routing is concerned, we are now done. We're now ready to set up a redundant recording. I'll set up a recording on the laptop in the same manner as on the desktop. I'll do this by creating a Pro Tools session to record audio from the E3 engine. I'll start by opening Pro Tools. As I did previously, I'll cancel the dashboard window so I can verify the correct playback engine. Here, I'm choosing the KWard-MacBook Pro 20 virtual audio device that we set up earlier. Next, I'll create a new session, add 32 mono tracks, and record enable all the tracks. We can now test the recording by sending some signal. As you can see and hear, everything we set up earlier is still working. In addition, we are now receiving signals on the laptop as well. I quickly want to show that you can use another DAW besides Pro Tools for recording. I'll throw together a session in Logic Pro X to show that it works as well. As you can see, Logic works great too. One last thing to mention is that the redundant connection may not come back correctly after restarting the E3 engine or restarting the computer. You should definitely test the redundant recording as part of your regular sound check to ensure that it is working. I hope you learned something in this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. If you like what you saw or would like to see me produce some other videos focused on live audio, specifically around the S3L, let me know. Ciao!